Coming up on Tech News today, we'll just put in some nice new countertops. We're going to redo the bathroom, a little landscaping, and you're going to love Yahoo. This is why you're going to buy it. Also, China wins the internet, and battery life and wireless performance get an upgrade. All coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, September 16th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Slingbox, which just turned your iPad into a television. Slingbox has a new iPad app, so now you can watch your home TV on your iPad anywhere you take it. Check it out at Best Buy or slingbox.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show. We kick around the tech news of the day, try to make some sense of it all. Sometimes we make sense of it all. We
happens
have
from time to time.
Every once in a while.
It's something we strive to do.
Exactly. And
It's an aspirational goal.
Goodness, we have help today from Ms. Nicole Lee, reviewer extraordinaire at CNET.com, co-host of Geeks on Glee, and many other things on the internet. Welcome, Nicole.
Hello, everyone. Happy Liquid Friday.
Thank you.
And also
do you have
to
a liquid?
you.
I do, but it's not alcohol.
That's fine. It doesn't have to be. We actually want to make that clear.
We don't even really encourage that. It's whatever you want, as long as you're hydrated.
What do you have?
It's a Coke Zero.
Nice.
Half full of rum. That's okay. You don't have to tell anybody.
We are all having a Boont Amber Ale from the Anderson Valley Brewing Company in Mendocino County, California. Good old Boonville.
Not I. I'm sticking with the water.
That's right. Jason's got water.
He's overcoming the plague.
He's needing to rehydrate.
It hurt saying, no, I won't have a beer.
Jason's feeling just a little off when he's like, I don't think I should.
Yeah, exactly.
Rough stuff.
At least before 11 a.m. I should. Let's start off. It's a Friday. We got some Friday news for you today. Some interesting stuff in here, but it's not one of those big like HP selling everything kind of days. Google Propeller has got the technorati all excited. Robert Scoble wrote this up on Google+. Everybody picked it up. All Things D confirmed it from their own sources. Apparently, Google working on a social news app that would run on iOS and Android and would be similar to Flipboard in that it would be a way to view your RSS feeds, your Facebook friends, your Twitter friends. That's the kind of thing that Flipboard does. It brings in feeds and makes them very magazine-like and readable in a tablet interface. And Scoble said Google's apparently working on several other social apps, as All Things D said. Does this get anybody as excited? I mean, this just tore up the blogosphere for a while this morning.
I'll pretend to be excited about it because Google Reader is incredibly ugly and has been ugly for a very long time to the point that people make extensions to make it look less ugly with custom CSS.
Well, I actually use Google Reader through Flipboard. It's the only way I use it.
Interesting. I use Google Reader through Reader, R-E-E-D-E-R. Again, just makes it more functional.
Yeah, but Flipboard is actually, well, it does really well with images. And let's not forget that Google tried to buy Flipboard. So it's sort of like a Captain Obvious type of a thing that they're like, okay, well, if we don't have Flipboard, let's just internally build something like Flipboard because we know people are using Flipboard to read our content.
And there's very little known social functions in Google Reader already. You can share things directly through it, or people will follow you, and sometimes you never even notice that on the top, on the left side.
The Google Reader interface, even though it's very functional, it's really weird. I mean, it surprises me that we are still talking about, let's make Google Reader make a little bit more sense to people. I mean, new people using Google Reader for the first time, I've had people say, I have no idea. I don't want anything to do with this. This is awful.
Well, Scoble didn't say particularly it would be about Reader. It may be a totally different take where they say, we're going to bring in your social network. We're going to bring in Google Plus and some specific feeds and that sort of thing. It's not surprising that they're trying to come up with a social news app, though.
This is also the big thing. Flipboard is kind of certainly an iPad darling. They're working on an iPhone app. CNN just bought Zeit, which is not just like Flipboard, but there are definitely comparisons to draw where you're making news a little bit more social and visual type of thing. So it just makes sense. Unless Google wants to buy somebody else, that they would make their own.
Maybe it'll be powered by Sparks. That Sparks, the thing that nobody uses on Google+. So you're like, look, my interest.
I've forgotten all about Sparks.
I don't even know what Sparks is.
It's that thing where it's like, it's what is it, like curated news almost? So
Yeah.
like you could like, what's one of the MySparks? Technology, and you'll see it. And
No,
there's a
you know
list.
what? I think you're absolutely right.
Nobody uses that thing.
That's what Sparks is good for. That's the only thing it would be good
Because
for.
all of my friends have different Sparks. I'm like, oh, what are you looking at? But nobody's actually using that feature right now.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a very good point. Using Google Sparks and using Google Plus, basically they're trying to tap into the social features that Google Plus provides, right? But some part of me feels like the Google just struggles so much with this space. I feel like Orkut. Remember Orkut, like years and years ago, they tried to do this social thing, and Google Plus was like there was sort of, I feel like the very first genuine, like quote unquote successful, like social product. It's not even really out of beta yet, really.
And don't forget, I think social is tied to bonuses this year at Google, right? When Larry Page came over, he said, hey, by the way, if you want to make some money on your bonus, work on our social strategy. So I could see why Google would be like working like mad to make sure something finally comes out.
Absolutely. I mean, I love this idea. Let's see it, Google.
Yeah, maybe
Can you make a Flipboard that's better than Flipboard? Because it's a pretty high bar.
Let's look and see what kind of social news app Diaspora is working on, and then we'll know what Google's going to do. Beijing Jingdong Century Trading Company. You don't know them, but they do operate a Chinese e-commerce site called 360 Buy, which is the sort of Amazon of China. Although apparently Amazon has its own Chinese arm at Amazon.cn. But I can't even remember the name like without looking. 360 Buy is really popular in China. They are planning an IPO in the first half of 2012, and they believe they can raise between $4 and $5 billion in that IPO. Now, if that succeeds, it would overtake Google, whose paltry $1.9 billion IPO in 2004 is the current record holder for internet company IPOs.
Wow.
$4 to $5 billion.
It's a lot of change.
In an era where IPOs are being constantly delayed. We've been waiting for the Groupon IPO all summer long, and they keep pushing it off. Zynga keeps pushing theirs off.
With bated breath. When will the Groupon IPO come through? I just can't wait another minute.
None of us do because we can't buy the stocks. But the people who are into this sort of thing have been really slobbering about it.
It's definitely been a big story.
Facebook is also reportedly delaying their IPO. So, here in the U.S., everybody's like, I don't know if it's the right time to IPO. Now, granted, this one is waiting until after the first of the year. But
for all the IPO junkies, now you have a new thing to go after, apparently. Like, if you wanted your fix, this is it.
I wonder how. Okay, so China has an Amazon China version.
Yeah, Amazon.cn.
360 Buy is, you could say, the Amazon of China, and obviously it's extremely successful if they're talking about an IPO in these numbers. But how successful is Amazon in China? I mean, is it like a distant second?
Yeah, I wonder if it's similar to Google.
To know.
I mean, obviously Google not operating in China anymore, but Baidu is the search engine in China, and even when Google was there, they had a hard time
I feel like
competing.
Different countries obviously have different cultural ways of looking at different websites. Like you said, Baidu is very popular in China, and they have their own version of Amazon. It could just be a cultural thing. Like they're for some reason Amazon never caught on there, and Google never really caught on there. It could be political issues obviously tying in with that. I'm not entirely sure with that, but it does prove the point that the Chinese economy is growing way faster and way more than the U.S. economy, it feels like.
Yeah. That is for sure. That even with China's economy slowing, it's obviously doing very well. And you're going to hear more about these Chinese companies as they continue to do well. Let's move on to a big advance that is going to help you with your cell phone. Actually, two advances here. One comes from the University of Michigan. Actually, both of them come from the University of Michigan. But this first one comes from Kang Xin and Jinyu Zhang, researchers, one a professor, one a grad student. They've developed a proof of concept that could extend battery life up to 54%. With your Wi-Fi radio on. The problem is your Wi-Fi radio is always connecting, always looking, always checking for a signal.
Whenever I'm low on battery, the first thing I do is kill Wi-Fi.
Turn off that Wi-Fi, exactly. What EMILI, or Energy Minimizing Idle Listening, does is scales back the wireless card's clock to 1/16 of its normal operating speed and only kicks back in when it senses incoming data. So in addition to processor slowing software, it would also have to be installed on Wi-Fi chipsets. So we'd need new devices that take advantage of this. It has to be installed on the chipsets. But we could be seeing this, in a few years as a way of dramatically reducing the amount of battery used by the Wi-Fi chip.
It's Wi-Fi being pinged rather than Wi-Fi saying, anybody out there? Anybody out there? Every 30 seconds
Yeah,
or so.
exactly.
Yeah, instead of everybody out there, it's like, anybody out there? Wake me up when you're out there.
Ping.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi network.
Hey,
Okay, I'm up.
Also at the University of Michigan, Zhuqing Morley Mao, a professor of computer science, led a research team in conjunction with Microsoft Research, discovering that something called middle boxes, this is network hardware that runs on the wireless carriers, is actually dramatically reducing the performance and sometimes the security of wireless networks. The hardware performs tasks like firewalling, it does deep packet inspection, intrusion detection and prevention, and it may be slowing down network connections. They measured a 50% performance hit on one carrier. They're not saying which carrier. And in some cases, it would drain the user's batteries to be connected to the network while this middle box was active. The researchers were working independently from the wireless carriers to conduct their tests. They used Android apps called NetPictulet to test what was going on, and they don't blame the wireless carriers. It's not that the wireless carriers put this nefarious thing in that they knew was hurting their network. They said, look, you test these things and they look fine in the lab, but it's not until you get them out in the wild and you've got thousands of people using them at once that you see what the interaction does.
Now, this middle box thing, I mean, isn't this similar to what happens even in home networks when if you have enough encryption and your computer needs to figure out what's going on and your router, you end up having slower speeds anyway?
That seems like a good analog. We'd have to ask the researchers,
Yeah.
but that strikes me as at least a metaphor for what seems to be happening here. Definitely.
Yeah, because I know, this is it's completely unsafe. But if you turn off all your security stuff on your router, you might actually get faster speeds in your house.
Right, because it's doing that.
Because it's causing your computer to work harder, the router to work harder. So it seems similar. I mean, I like you were saying, if they don't test this in the real world, how will they possibly know?
Right. And Mao said she hopes our team can work with carriers to get better access to the network infrastructure to study the effects of the middle boxes directly as a way of helping the carriers to improve networks. She also added that the issues uncovered in the report would be more acute with LTE networks because LTE network is inherently more complex than a 3G wireless network, and a lot of the IP capability is done closer to the user hardware.
Yeah, and I think this is actually very pertinent because, AT&T recently, right, they just announced recently that they're finally going to be rolling out their LTE network, I think September 18th or something like that. And, Verizon, AT&T, they're both getting into LTE, and we'll see if this slows down networks even more. Yeah,
and one of the things that cellular networks are constantly touting is the fact that they need more legislative easement on net neutrality. They need more spectrum because of the congestion. But if we could figure out a different way to ease the congestion and make the networks work better, then we wouldn't have to worry about all of these special rules and spectrum allocations. We'd just get better working networks. Yep. I hope that competition would solve this as well. Maybe Light Squared will allow Professor Mao access to their network when they get up and running. We'll see.
I'd love to know who the carrier was.
They don't say, but I have my
they don't say because it's like, why single out someone who's going to have the same problems as all the other carriers?
It'd be nice to know.
I would like to know, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Verizon was the only network that actually responded to Marguerite Reardon at CNET when she wrote this story, and they just said, our network is awesome. Essentially. I mean, it was boilerplate PR stuff. Everybody else just refused to even comment about it. So let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Slingbox. If you haven't tried out Slingbox, you got to try it out. It's the only way to watch television on the go. To be honest, forget all of these other services that claim to deliver your television to you. Slingbox, once you buy the box and once you buy the app you need for your mobile device, you don't pay a monthly subscription fee. You don't pay anything else on top of what you're already paying for your cable television or satellite service, or even if you've got over the air, it works with that. Anything that you already get in your home, including what's on your DVR, can be sent over the internet to you anywhere you are. And the new iPad app is excellent. It's high def. It looks great. It works great. You can watch anything that is on your home television over the iPad. You can also still watch it on your phone, watch it on your Android device. You can watch it on your laptop. What you want to do is go to slingbox.com, or you can stop by a Best Buy and see a demo there and check it out. You hook the Slingbox up to your TV, you hook it up to your internet connection, and then you download the app to your device, and you're set to go. Slingbox in your home TV, now appearing on iPads everywhere. And we thank Slingbox for their support of Tech News Today. Still some fallout over the demonstration of Windows 8, specifically around the issue of compatibility, because not every app is going to work on every installation of Windows 8, because Windows 8 will be running on both ARM and Intel x86 processors, or AMD x86 processors, any x86 processor. Steve Ballmer said yesterday that Microsoft's working on a version of Office that will use the Metro interface. Well, that's cool. You know, the idea of Office running in that Metro interface means that it would theoretically work on any processor, right?
Hopefully. Maybe.
When This Is My Next asked Microsoft's VP of Windows Planning, Mike Angelo, about Office, he said, "We didn't make the promise of shipping it or announce a SKU, but I showed it running, so you do the math."
I just don't understand why he has to be so coy about saying, yes, we're working on this. Expect it.
If I were Joanna Stern, I would have said, "I was told there would be no math."
Wait, so the quote from Ballmer, though, on Office is, certainly you ought to expect that we are rethinking and working hard on what it would mean to do Office Metro style. So not necessarily saying, yeah, it's coming.
And then this guy says, "We didn't promise anything." In other words, they're like, all the engineers are like, "Don't you dare promise that this is shipping because we're not done with it yet."
Right.
But they're like, "Look, it's totally going to happen."
But by announcing it this way, no one I mean, there's no sort of deadline to hit. It's sort of a winky wink thing so that people like us will just talk about it for a while.
One of the reasons you want that is because of this thing where not every program is going to work on every installation of Windows, which really hasn't been true in the past if you just consider like Windows 7. Pretty much any program you buy for Windows 7 works on every installation of Windows 7. Forget network and IIS and all that kind of thing. We're talking about your home user. They don't have to worry about it. Well, now they do, because and Angelo made this point. He says, don't equate ARM with tablets. We're going to put Windows 8 on ARM-powered laptops and desktops as well. So you might have a situation where, you know, I've got my Quicken and my Microsoft Word that I bought for Windows Vista at home, and I go and I buy a new laptop with Windows and I try to install it, and it's like, yeah, this doesn't work because I bought an ARM-based laptop. Well, a lot of people aren't going to understand why it's not working.
No, not at all.
See, I have so much trouble with this idea that you're going to keep an old CD of Quicken from 2002 and then walk into the store today. I'm going to buy a laptop. I don't know which one.
It doesn't have to be from 2002. It could be from 2 years ago.
Fine, let's say 2 years ago. Okay.
And you have a problem thinking that there's
what I'm saying,
millions of people out there that do that?
I think that if you're going to go and get a new laptop, there's a chance you might be aware that your software might not work again and again and again.
Well, there's a chance, but not 100% chance.
But see, then when you just actually ask questions, or I mean, are consumers just going to be blind to this, or those
have you
same
met consumers?
Hang on a second. Microsoft is building in the Windows app or their Windows Store in all of Windows 8 on every single thing. Okay, so their ARM version and the x86 version will have the store. So if you find out that your program doesn't work, you either have to return your laptop, or you'll just start buying stuff from the store directly.
Yeah, but you think about this. People who say, well, wait, I paid for this, and it's Windows, and it doesn't work on Windows.
Yep.
Right. That's the thing. Is
what
do you have? Windows 8.
Well, I feel like
this
the
program
problem
doesn't
here,
work.
I feel the problem here is user education. Like, I hate to reference Apple, but Apple has like very successful user education campaigns on their website, on ads everywhere. So Microsoft could do a user education campaign saying that, this software will only work from this laptops and these tablets and so forth. I mean, they could do like a very simple, low level, no math required, education campaign. I think it's possible.
Microsoft's VP of Windows Planning said there is a significant amount of marketing that we are capable of doing that can get through. We can afford to tell a story and tell it long enough and clearly enough. We will make sure it is absolutely clear where your legacy apps will run.
I'm going to pick up a hammer and hammer it into your brain.
We'll beat that story into submission.
Just like we've educated everyone to never click on spam, and just like we've educated everyone to be secure and run antivirus and always have a secure computer, we'll be able to educate them about
Don't
this.
ever use 12345 as your password.
Right. We've
Who would
totally
do that?
that education has totally worked.
I think it's going to be a speed bump. Okay, Microsoft has annoyed consumers lots of times. Remember the whole ribbon thing? And Office people were like, "What is this? I don't get it." You have to just deal with it. There's going to be very annoyed people out there. They're going to say, "This doesn't work. This is horrible." They're going to have to decide what to do for that point.
I guess
they're not going to just like start like it won't be the apocalypse if their computer doesn't work with their old version of Quicken. Just figure something out. It
won't be the apocalypse, but it's going to damage Microsoft's brand reputation because people will start saying this stuff doesn't work.
That's right. I'm not saying it won't.
Microsoft is basically telling everyone, get over it.
Yeah, that's
like, get over it, learn it. That's their problem. It's the whole legacy app. The whole legacy situation is Microsoft's problem to hold and to hang on their shoulders for all time, apparently.
Rich in lovely-ish Cleveland wrote in and weighed in on this very point. He says, I don't think there'll be a lot of consumer confusion on trying to get x86 programs to run on ARM Windows 8. Apple has done a lot of the hard work for Microsoft already by getting people to associate a tablet form factor with an app store. Since virtually all ARM devices will be tablet form factor for Windows 8, there won't be as many ways to get software on an ARM tablet. Most people don't think to install from a flash drive, and I'm sure sites like download.com will detect the version of Windows and alter their software offerings accordingly. So he's saying, yeah, sure, there'll be some desktops and laptops out there running ARM, but there won't be enough to cause a problem. Maybe he's right.
Well, they have a significant amount of marketing to do.
They do.
I hope the ads are just as good as the Seinfeld Gates ones. The ones that made no sense. Those would be great.
Yeah, where he was like jogging with Bill Gates.
Trying on shoes. I don't really understand what that had to do with the product.
Gosh, I forgot all about those.
Yeah, so did I.
I was like, I don't know what these are supposed to mean.
Yeah,
I like
they're funny. Seinfeld. And exactly. What's with shoes and Windows?
I forgot the Seinfeld ads. Oh my gosh, yeah, those were terrible.
That's what my brain keeps in there.
Now, you
guys cleared all that out.
In addition to Liquid Friday, it is also Wild Acquisition Speculation Friday.
Yay.
I don't know if many people realize that.
Drink.
A source, yes, drink.
Happy WAS Day, everyone.
A source told Business Insider that people at Microsoft are definitely talking about buying Yahoo. But then Iyaz and I and Jason and Sarah were talking about this earlier, too.
Is this 2009? What's happening here?
Just because they're talking about buying Yahoo doesn't mean they're going to buy Yahoo. Although the source says that Yahoo is definitely more attractive to Microsoft than AOL because AOL is just going to break apart.
Well, Microsoft was already interested in Yahoo.
Yeah,
when Yahoo was worth
kind of
more.
not news, right?
So, how is this any sort of revelation
now,
to anybody?
Here's what does make it more interesting. A Wall Street Journal reporting that Silver Lake Partners have contacted Yahoo about a potential acquisition bid. Silver Lake are an investment firm that bought Skype from eBay.
That's right.
Fixed it up and sold it to Microsoft.
So they're going to buy Yahoo, fix it up. So they're going to flip my Yahoos.
Yeah, according to Bloomberg. According to Bloomberg, Silver Lake's plan involves liquidating Yahoo's Asian assets, then focusing on the firm's core business elsewhere around the world in hopes of potentially finding a new buyer, putting in new countertops, remodeling the bathrooms, and selling to Microsoft. Okay, that last part may not be what Bloomberg said.
I heard people talking about it though, so it must have been there.
They're gonna just put a coat of paint on it, and
they'll flip it and they'll sell it for twice the price.
Little landscaping.
That's right.
We have a lovely curb appeal on Yahoo.
I was just going to say that. You took my joke out of my throat and said it.
One brain.
Good work, Merritt.
All Things Digital reported earlier this week that Andreessen Horowitz also considering acquiring all or part of Yahoo because of the low stock price. It's around $14. So it's actually not, for an investment firm, it's not that far out of the realm. Everybody assumes that because they fired Carol Bartz that this is their next step, is they just want to sell the thing. In related acquisition speculation, Facebook may be one of the few viable buyers for WebOS. This not according to Facebook or HP, but according to Jefferies analyst Peter Missick, who lined out the fact that Facebook needs a mobile operating system because everyone else has one. Microsoft has one. Google has one. Apple has one. So Facebook must have to have one. You're looking at me very. It's like
that's something peer pressure. Like, well, they have to have an operating system. No, they don't.
Mark Zuckerberg's mom is like well, if Microsoft ran off a cliff, would you also run?
And there was also all the rumors of was a Project Spartan. They have their own HTML5 thing to worry about. Why would they bother with WebOS, which I know was supposed to use web standards anyway?
Wasn't there a rumor that their first Facebook app was actually going to be a WebOS app, not an iOS app?
The first app, it looked that way, but it was HP that made the app.
That's right.
That was the confusion there because everyone's like, "Oh, look at Facebook." I wonder if
that has anything to do with just feeling like they've got a good relationship, these two.
Well, they have apparently billions of dollars. Once their IPO goes, they're like, you know what, we feel like buying something. But WebOS.
That's the thing with these companies. Everyone has so much money that it's like Microsoft might buy Yahoo. Facebook might buy WebOS.
Yeah,
they got the money.
Microsoft might be over being spurned the first time. It's a matter of whether the Yahoo board is going to be more reasonable about a Microsoft offer. I mean, Microsoft made a really generous offer last time, and Yahoo was like, no way.
We're worth way more than that.
Yeah,
see how that went.
I think they've learned since then. Also, we'd be remiss if we didn't throw RIM into the acquisition speculation. After yesterday's earnings report was so disappointing, RIM shares took a beating on Friday today and tumbled as much as 24%. So now, of course, now that they're cheaper, everybody's like, oh, maybe somebody will buy RIM.
They could just all buy each other.
Maybe RIM will buy WebOS and then sell themselves to Yahoo and then become part of Microsoft.
The Silver Lake will buy them.
Ooh,
and Silver Lake will buy Microsoft.
It'll
maybe
be
Silver
Yahoo
Lake.
Softberry WebOS.
Yahoo Softberry. That sounds like a great flavor.
Yahoo Softberry. Ooh.
I think that's
you're onto something.
I think Pinkberry sells that. That's one of their flavors.
Tastes a lot like metal.
Tastes a lot like disappointment.
Metal and disappointment. Always goes down smooth.
All right. And then finally, some airplane technology stories. Boeing is going to outfit its new 787 Dreamliners with servers and touchscreens using Google Android operating system. That'll provide your music, your video, all that stuff that shows up on the seat back sometimes. This according to a report by Australian Business Traveler. Panasonic and Thales are producing the Android-based hardware. Panasonic has done a lot of the hardware for Boeing in the past. Also, GoGo. They provide the Wi-Fi for planes like Delta planes or Virgin America planes. GoGo has unrolled a major upgrade to its in-air Wi-Fi access for 2012. They will start rolling it out on Virgin America. It's called ATG4 spec and promises to quadruple the practical speed, enough to where HD video streaming will be an option on your in-plane Wi-Fi. They're basically upgrading to a faster EVDO Revision B standard.
Expect a lot more Ustreams from 30,000 feet in the air.
Hey, I could.
Those were always the projects that never worked.
Yeah,
You can surf fine when you're on a plane, but you can't really stream from your seat for very long.
I could Skype into the show.
So nobody.
Exactly.
No more excuses.
No more travel excuses for anybody. It's like, we know where you're flying.
Mile High Club means something different now.
Well, they could be live streaming that, I guess.
Well, that's not what I meant. I meant
That's what you meant.
doing a tech show.
No, that's what you meant.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
Somebody's going to think of that. Whether we admit it or not. Virgin planes should start carrying the faster access sometime in the first half of next year. American Airlines also getting its own separate upgrade. Vision, GoGo's media service, is expected to reach 400 of the carrier's aircraft and blanket the airline by the end of 2012. So you get upgraded media from GoGo as well. Let's move on to the news fuse.
It's time to move on. And lawsuit.
GFI Labs found ads on certain Bing and Yahoo searches are linking to malware. So if you search for things like Firefox download or download Skype on those sites, display ads that could lead a user to install some nasty malware like a rootkit. Microsoft and Yahoo are aware of the problem and are removing the dangerous ads. And it surely made our TWiT sysadmins and web people feel a lot better about themselves today.
Yeah. So it turns out that the PlayStation Vita does not have the best battery life in the world, but that's okay.
Thanks.
But Sony's introducing an external battery pack, Tom.
Oh, good.
It's going to save the world. It's just a form-fitting battery that slightly enlarges the overall really kind of pleasant small Vita size. Actually, no. It's a rectangular 5,000 milliamp per hour battery that's like a separate whole unit.
Oh, that's convenient.
It's like a pager.
Oh. Yeah, so it's... You know, it's portable, but
I'll just get a little mini cart to wheel it around next to me.
for your other hand.
Yeah.
That'll make gaming fun.
It's hard to get the perspective that that's the size of a desktop computer.
So. That is not true.
Okay, not true.
Sony says that the Vita's internal battery life is around 3 to 5 hours. So, I mean, that is not a cross-country plane flight.
Penny Arcade had the best cartoon about it today, so I'm not going to try to read the cartoon to you on the podcast.
This gives you a reason to have like a utility belt with a battery pack and a Vita and and an iPhone.
That's great.
One more reason people will use to rationalize not reading terms of service: breaking them doesn't mean you break the law. The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act is being changed to reclass breaking the law a felony instead of a misdemeanor. But to keep TOS violators from filling up our jails, Senators Al Franken and Chuck Grassley added an amendment to exempt violations of TOS and employer policies from the lists of felony activity.
Breaking the terms of service, it's not a crime. It's just a civil action.
Wrong, I guess.
Google's working on its search engine results all the time, obviously. And now when you search for something, Google will try to bring you a non-paginated version of a site if such a page exists. They're tired of clickbait just like you are. Instead of having to click through 8 pages to read one article, Google will send you to the view on one page version. Google will be looking for an obvious view all version if they can find it, so it may not always be there.
Those will magically disappear.
I, for one, welcome our new one-page overlords.
Yeah, so when you get the print version, now is the print version going to have like 4 different versions you have to print to get around the Google thing?
Oh, no. What a horrible future.
No,
Oh, gosh.
that's
We have like, the
terrible.
apocalypse because of Windows ARM and this thing. Great.
Not looking good.
It's apocalypse day.
Canadian ISP Shaw is working with Cisco to
Shaw.
build a Wi-Fi network in some major
Shaw.
Canadian cities. Shaw, like Calgary and Edmonton. They're going to love this. This isn't a set of hotspots. The goal of the network is to bring Wi-Fi everywhere in these cities, including parks, stadiums, streets. Very convenient. The network will be complete by May of 2012 for Shaw customers.
That's what they needed after the
Shaw.
Stanley Cup last year. They needed some ubiquitous Wi-Fi access.
That's
That would have made everybody happy.
Good.
2 early investors, Fred Wilson and Bijan Sabit, will be leaving Twitter's board at the end of the... What's that?
Yep.
Bijan.
Bijan. Sabit.
Bijan.
Whatever his name is. It doesn't matter. He's leaving the board of Twitter, okay, at the end of the month.
Who cares what his name is? His name is gone.
Twitter will not be replacing the 2 on the board. However, in a statement, a Twitter representative said that both of those guys will be providing input as investors.
Good choice.
There you go.
Brazil's getting an iPad plant. Yes, according to a
iPads?
Brazilian news outlet, Foxconn has built a factory in Brazil. We've talked about this before. They're going to handle the demand for iPads. This is the first time that the iPad will be made in a factory outside of a Chinese territory. So your next iPad may come with a little Portuguese flavor.
I think they invested about $12 billion.
Yeah, it's something
a
huge.
big
like that.
deal.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So
awesome.
here's a problem. You pretty much only care about if you actually have it, and then you might actually care quite a bit. According to Mac Rumors, 2 of its readers have contacted Apple CEO Tim Cook to see if Apple will eventually allow users to merge
Also to
their
see if Tim
Apple
Cook responds to his email
IDs.
like Steve Jobs did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Nope. Yep.
Or no.
Nope. Nope.
Forget it.
Nope.
Yeah. I actually have this problem. I have like my apps, some of my apps on my
Tim Cook
iPhone
problem? Okay, so
are with one
you're
Apple
one-
ID
okay.
and
Yes,
not another.
this is
and
totally
so-
my problem as well.
And it's
I
so
have, like,
annoying,
3.
Nicole. It's like, what do I do? I'd love to be able to merge. So those of you with multiple Apple IDs are saying, yes, we agree with you guys. Those readers, Mac Rumors says, received word from an Apple executive relations employee who said that the company is planning to allow for just that functionality.
Yay! I'm so happy.
They didn't say it in that way. That's my own jingle.
I'm pretty sure
but
the-
I'm just happy.
No, I think the email had
Yeah.
sheet music attached. It's you know, Tim Cook does things differently. HP is being sued by one of its own shareholders. Why? The claim is that HP covered up and refused to admit that WebOS wasn't a central part of its business, even when it was promoting the touchpad. Let the long, drawn-out litigation begin where we get to find all kinds of fun testimony.
But it wasn't a central part of their business.
But they didn't tell them.
Obviously, yeah. How would you not know that? Just by anyway. That's just silly. Well, we'll see what happens. On to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Researchers at the University of Sheffield in the UK have developed a gel that glows under ultraviolet light. So when it gets in contact with any kind of bacteria, actually many kinds of bacteria. So this
I was
is
going to say, it would just glow all the time.
Well, this
Can't
is
really
cool.
get rid of bacteria, right?
Because well, I guess certain kinds of bacteria, right?
Yeah.
Is that what he's
yes,
saying? Yeah.
some certain kinds. And the thing is, what you can do is just by visually inspecting with this glow-in-the-dark gel, you can see if you have areas covered in goop. So let's say Jason was sick.
Or
And-
she
that
is.
never happens.
And let's say he was at the TD station like he is right
sick
now.
man.
We could like turn off the lights once we've applied the gel on the pop filter there.
And inspect the mic.
We can inspect the mic and see all kinds of horrible things.
We could see if
you
he had
wanna do that.
Could we cover
salmonella
Jason in gel?
or meningitis.
And
That's
just
up to him.
see, like,
Or E.
what's the worst
coli.
part of Jason?
How much?
Well, with salmonella,
Is it the
How
nose?
much
Is it
of
the
this
ear?
stuff am I walking around with on me at all times?
the fact that it can
Jason's like, why do I have to be in this dark closet?
the fact that it can detect salmonella and E. coli, that sounds like it'd be great, like in a kitchen application.
Yeah,
actually.
right.
Because then you would just turn off the lights and then freak out. You're like, oh, I left the chicken over there. I should clean up my counter.
Then do you have to spray gel? Like it
It could be
seems like
integrated.
I love the idea. I just wonder how.
Well,
You're actually going to.
let's just be clear here. What it's really good for is if you have a wound or some kind of test that needs to be done. In the past, they would have to swab the wound, send it to a lab.
Right.
You'd wait several days. You'd get sicker and sicker.
Yeah.
Now they can tell in a couple hours whether you actually have an infection or not. So,
And they'll save on electricity bills.
yes, exactly. They turn out the lights. Hey, what's on the calendar, Sarah?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Tom. Sprint's version of the Samsung Galaxy S2, which is called the Samsung Galaxy S2, Epic 4G Touch.
Yes, the comma is part of the name.
Yeah, don't forget the comma, or it's just going to be a run-on sentence.
It's AP style.
And it's now on sale. It's $200 with a new contract at Sprint.com.
You got to play with one of these, huh, Nicole?
Yeah, it's very similar to the Galaxy S2 that I know Eileen has. It's pretty much exactly the same phone, except, it has 4G, Sprint's 4G WiMAX on it. Different controls, a little different menu system, but otherwise very similar. And if you like the Galaxy X2, you probably like this one too.
Cool. Belkin is running an awesome promotion today for anybody who likes Belkin products. 50% off of everything at Belkin.com with no minimum purchase just by using the code FB50.
Get me some USB hubs.
That runs until September 30th.
I definitely might.
As a
take
former
advantage
product
of it.
reviewer, I say stay away from the routers.
Yeah.
Get everything else.
Yeah, the
Right.
routers are not the best.
Half off.
USB hubs.
Yeah, that's
for
great.
everybody. You get a USB hub. You get a USB hub. Everybody gets a USB hub.
You still have to pay, but only half as much.
Yeah.
President Obama has signed the patent
Not sponsored
reform bill called America Invents Act. He really has a way with naming bills, doesn't he? Into law, officially making first-to-file patent reform in the U.S. a reality. Although it's not going to go into effect for another 18 months, the plan is in motion. Valve is making the original Portal available for free this weekend on Steam. Anyone who follows Mark Turpin, a.k.a.
The Terpster.
a.k.a. _T on Twitter, has said publicly, if you do not download Portal and you've never played it before, I will unfollow you.
So if you wanted him to unfollow you, this is the way to do it.
Just ignore everything.
Right.
But if you want to be a friend of a really cool guy across the pond,
He didn't say he'd follow
better
you if you
play-
downloaded.
And this is the first Portal, so I mean, if you haven't played it, like me,
Where have
you're
you
just
been?
Yeah.
kind of an idiot
like
in general.
me.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I actually haven't done that.
We should
You
all
need to
do it.
that.
I know all the Portal jokes. I just haven't actually played it.
That's like me
You're
and
a
Wizard of
Portal
Oz.
poser.
That's right.
Portal poser.
That's exactly what I am. Finally, Canon is planning a Hollywood event on November 3rd for, we don't really know what it's for. The press announcement says, the story begins. Canon is making an historical announcement. So, I don't know. I mean, if I had to take a wild guess, I mean, it kind of sounds like video because it's a story type of a thing. But then you can take.
But it's in
you can
Hollywood.
do
It would have to
stories
be
and
video,
fiction.
right?
You would think.
Why would they do still cameras in Hollywood?
No, I mean, it's
Because
like
they haven't introduced like a mirrorless camera yet. And everyone's
It
been
could
waiting
be
for them
that
to do it.
they're shooting an entire movie with one of their fancy DSLRs, the 5D or something like
that's
that.
not a bad. I hadn't even thought about that.
Mirrorless camera that shoots video.
Mark II. Yeah.
Well, they probably all
Oh,
shoot video.
sure.
Yeah.
If they can get rid of that whole wobble effect, the rolling shutter problem,
Yeah, totally.
that would be some real news.
Also, by the way, if you go to Belkin.com right now, Jason, if you pull up my screen, this is what you get. Which is, we love our customers, and apparently you love us too. But due to overwhelmingly high traffic, our website is currently down.
Oops.
But don't fret, our 50% off promotion runs through September 30th.
Yeah, that's why they. Not in one day.
Yeah.
You've got time, everybody.
That's
Got
right.
time.
All right, time for incoming. Nice.
Yeah,
I
it's
like that.
temporary.
We're working
It
on
was
something
a
official
quickie.
there. Well, this just out of the chat room. Bloomberg now with a big story about Apple's TV set that would
Dun, dun,
replace
dun.
today's cable systems, game consoles, and 3D goggles. So if you want the latest rumor about Apple actually making a TV set, now we've got rumors from Bloomberg because they say it's coming by Christmas 2012. So there you go.
They gave themselves a whole year.
Yeah.
On this rumor.
Yeah.
So it could be.
Lot of runway
it got
there.
delayed. Oh, they aren't making it anymore. It's over.
Yeah. And we have a voicemail from Greg in London about how Apple makes things simple. We were talking about this yesterday.
TNT crew, this is Greg the Garage Head from London. Listening to your debate on Windows 8, ARM versus x86 and people getting confused and whatnot, and comparing it to Mac and how Mac is simple, straightforward, and one thing. Steve set it all out for us. Think about it, you had PowerPC and then PowerPC switched to Intel, so then you had two sets of apps. Some of them died when you switched over to Lion as well. Also, in the Windows App Store, they could just tell you whether your app is compatible with your current processor or not when you go to buy and download the stuff. Thanks, love the show, yada, yada, yada.
So yeah, going back to our early conversation, but a good point.
Yada yada, the best part.
There was
more Seinfeld.
There was some
it's part of the show today.
Confusion when Apple went from the PowerPC to Intel because stuff that you bought for the Intel PC did not run on your old PowerPC.
Right, but for the other way around, going from the old systems, Apple included Rosetta, so you could actually still use programs. Now, there's no emulators on Windows 8.
Not
so
yet.
that you can do that's probably going to be the big product.
They made those vague hints about we haven't announced everything, so maybe they've got some sort of virtual machine, some sort of hypervisor type.
They have talked
situation.
about Hyper-V being in there. So
Hyper-V is going to be.
But that's a virtual.
They announced that.
This has to be an emulator because it's ARM to x86.
So if they could do a Hyper-V, I don't know. That's weird. I don't know. I don't know enough about that to know how easy that is to do. All right, finishing up with an email from Kelvin MacBytes, who named our segment Incoming. He says, glad I could be of help in suggesting names for the viewer incoming communications section and that you liked and picked Incoming. That and Maelstrom were my favorites. I think, however, I will pass on the genuine TNT paper clips.
That we offered as a prize.
I guess we'll keep these then. I was going to throw in this free toy of a penguin, but since you're saying no, forget it.
That's a walrus.
It's actually a rabbit.
It's actually a penguin that is painted as a rabbit that looks a lot like a walrus from October Toys.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. It's pretty
Kelvin, you're missing out.
But you won't get that now, Kevin. He also says, I think I will pass
the TWiT arcade, the TV station.
Being stabbed by Sarah.
Okay, I guess you're going to miss out on something really fun. Did I say I was going to stab someone?
Yes, you did.
Oh.
That's why you mentioned it.
And then he says, P.S. The Windows sad face is not new as far as system errors go. Apple Macs for years had the sad Mac on the old Macs.
That's true.
That's true.
Once again, Microsoft just ripping off Apple.
No, he didn't say that part.
He didn't say that.
What a fanboy thing to say. Wow. Must just be
he is called MacBytes.
I'm kidding. People call me a fanboy, fangirl all the time, so.
All right.
Just trying it out.
And he is a regular contributor to our Reddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. Lots of folks in there suggesting things for us to cover on the show. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do the show without you. Sky Jedi, Polar FRZ. Well, we could, but it wouldn't be as good. Comp Fixer 87, Captain Kipper, G Whipped, email for help, and more. Submitted stories today. You can go and submit stories, vote them up or down. Check out the What's Hot, the controversial, the top stories. There's lots of tabs in there. technewstoday.reddit.com. Also, just received news yesterday, last round of brick ordering. You can still get bricks, and your message would show up here in the TWiT studio. So if you ever came to visit, you could visit your brick. But meanwhile, everybody else who comes through will see your message. So go to bricks.twit.tv if you would like to get in on the last gasp of being able to order a brick to be part of the new studio. Your intellectual DNA could be built into the studio.
They get creative, too. I mean, you can do things like QR codes. You could have a full message. You can have almost anything on these things. Maybe link it to a URL so you can change your message from time to time.
Thank you, Nicole Lee, for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. It's always fun. Let folks know what you're up to over there at CNET.
Yeah, so I record a weekly cell phone podcast, dialedin.cnet.com for that information. We're moving our live show to starting on Mondays at 10 a.m., starting, I think, 2 weeks from now. So you can watch us live then, or you can just download our podcast on dialedin.cnet.com.
I love Dialed In. You guys are the best. Tell Kent and Bonnie I said hello.
Yeah, you can also go to my about.me page on my link URL right there, for all my Twitter and Google Plus information right there.
Thanks, everybody, for watching us. twit.tv/TNT is the place to find us on the web. You can also email us, tnt@twit.tv. Give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. 260-TNT shows our Google voicemail, or you can just record it and send it in to us at our email address. We will be back on Monday with Jason Heiner from Tech Republic. It's a CBS Interactive bookend week. See you then.